Welcome everybody to the session, and first of all, a huge thank you to the educators and the leaders joining us here at EduDay for your time, your dedication across what has been an incredibly complicated 2020, and also a thank you to your family and your friends for the support that they've given you as you've been coming home exhausted and tired to tackle another day teaching, learning and leading across 2020. My name's Mark Sparvell. I'm a Director of Education with Microsoft, and I'm also a teacher and a principal like a lot of you with 30 years experience. In this session, I'm going to be providing an introduction and also an invitation to follow up and find out more about some new research that we've led recently with new pedagogies for deep learning called Education Reimagined. I'd also like to introduce my co-host. You'll be hearing from him a little bit later. Lewis, hello to you.
Thank you, Mark. It will be a pleasure sharing.
Great, we're looking forward to your session. So as I said, we're going to be talking about learning forwards, not a return to a normal or even a new normal, but what learning might look like moved forwards and reimagined. I'm often asked about the future of learning. What might it look like? Well, one thing that I say to people is that we're not talking about the future. This is something that we create each and every day. We prepare young people to shape their preferred future. We don't prepare them for a fixed future. And certainly if COVID has taught us anything, it's very hard to predict what might be happening. But these are the things that we do know about learning forwards. It's going to continue to be profoundly socially embedded. Learning is something best done together. It will continue to be open-walled, with expertise flowing into schools and also from schools outside to other groups. There'll be a continued focus on mastery and skills. Learning will continue to be profoundly inclusive by design, and will also prioritise learner agency. So when we hear about voice, choice and agency, what we mean is it's important to be seen, to be heard, and to have some control. And learning, not surprisingly, must be more personalised, contextualised and relevant to the learner. It simply has to have purpose and it must connect to their passion. Before COVID, there was already this move from traditional to deep learning. And deep learning, if you like, is learning that sticks. And you can see some examples from the paper here, shifting from learner agency being unclear to deepening the desire to not only connect with other people, but to do good, to shift from a focus on teachers and teaching, still important, but towards learners and learning. You'll find out more about this in the paper. But let's not make no mistake here. COVID-19 was a disruptor, both a humanitarian crisis, an economic crisis, and a public health crisis that placed education smack bang in the middle of it. It had impact and disruption for educators, for students, for families, everybody connected with the schools. And you can see in this study of 5,000 teachers, how they felt in March was anxious, uncertain, and stressed. It could also be argued that leading up to 2020, many education reforms across the globe had stalled for various reasons, and there was this pent-up energy for change, for shifting, a focus to deep learning, new ways of exploring pedagogy. Some have said perhaps 2020 has acted as an accelerator also, placing into sharp spotlight things that need to be addressed and possibilities for what might be. The paper, which is available to you all, published with new pedagogies for deep learning and Microsoft Education, has also been endorsed and is part of the UNESCO Global Education Coalition COVID-19 Response Toolkit. It's a paper that looks to take what has been best, what has worked and been successful in traditional approaches to education, and then to reimagine and cast them forwards into a model which is open-walled, profoundly personalised, student-centric, focused on mastery, all of the things that we've heard about that education reform has been attempting to achieve. Hybrid learning models, it's possible, could deliver on those. The paper itself, a quick summary, introduces three phases: disruption, that shift to remote learning, this transitional phase where schools might reopen and indeed might reclose, and then constantly moving learning forwards and education forwards to a reimagining phase. We know that within disruption, there can also be growth, there can be unsettled times, and there's opportunity to learn. And the paper provides really useful probing questions. If you're a classroom teacher at the disrupting phase, you might be asking, how do I cope with so many resources? However, if you're moving into the growth phase, your questions might become more aligned with who is learning, who is struggling, and how do I ensure well-being? Most of us are in the transitional phase across the globe, and there's some key things to focus on here. Quite simply, well-being, equity, and quality learning. And the process that is suggested in the paper suggests being mindful of well-being, reflecting on the lessons learned, manage the safety and operations, and lead the learning agenda. So flicking through, there's a number of resources available in that asset to help schools, to help systems navigate the challenges. Before I finish up and pass over to the fabulous Lewis, there's some resources available to you. There's the paper available in English, also available in Portuguese. There's a course on the Microsoft Educator Centre available for you to take, a 1-hour course. Plus, also there are other resources to support you with hybrid learning. I'm Mark Sparvell from Microsoft Education. Thank you so much for all that you do each and every day. Over to you, Lewis.
Thanks, Mark, for the excellent intervention to these new times of deep learning. I think that you have presented a real contest of education in times of pandemic, and you clearly showed some of the key principles of this perspective of deep learning. Now, it's up to me to present some of the methodologies and strategies to be used in education by 21st century teachers for 21st century students. Thank you, Mark. I'm the manager for change and pedagogical innovation at Colégio Casa Mãe, a private school located in Paredes, northern Portugal. I'm focused on implementation of innovative practice in classroom, transforming students' learning, culture, and increasing its achievement. Teacher and action researcher, presenting my research already among several international conferences and congress on education, teaching, and learning. I have to say that over the past 9 months, there have been opportunities for everyone, and I'm really encouraged to see how teachers around the world have taken up the challenge of adapting and innovating. Truth, transparency in procedures, and rigor in assessment is the language that all teachers want to hear and use. Innovating is an attitude, not rocket science. I already say that innovation does not depend on technology. In fact, it can help innovation, but it does not depend on technology. For example, replacing manuals with a tablet has nothing to do with innovation. The recent paper, Education Reimagined, shows that schools and systems are currently prioritizing 3 things: health and safety, social and emotional learning, and quality teaching. A student prepared for the challenge of 21st century is not one who simply knows, but one who is able to research, understand, and express his knowledge. A student able, after all, to develop knowledge in a genuine and effective way. In the Portuguese desired profile of students living 18 years old schooling, there is the definition of a vision for this future citizen. One that is endowed with cultural, scientific, and technological literacy that allows it to critically analyze and question reality, evaluate and select information, formulate hypotheses, and take decisions based on their daily lives. I'm speaking about the digital native. This is a term coined by Mark Prensky in 2001, used to describe the generation of people who grew up in this era of ubiquitous technology, including computers and the internet. They are comfortable with technology and computers at an early age and consider technology to be an integral and necessary part of their lives. We speak of a 21st century teacher with the willingness to listen and serve students, respecting their individuality, knowing how to use and master new technologies. I believe in classrooms where the student is at the center of everything, okay? Ideally, such a classroom would feature multiple activity centers with various classroom instructors, students exchanging ideas, students excited about learning and actively asking questions, and multiple activities occurring at the same time. How do we learn? We must consider the Glasser learning pyramid that suggests that most students only remember about 10% of what they read, but retain nearly 90% of what they learn through teaching others, for example. Bloom's taxonomy is a classification of how different objectives and skills that educators set for their students. Like other taxonomies, Bloom is hierarchical, meaning that learning at higher levels is dependent on having attained prerequisite knowledge and skills at lower levels. Bloom taxonomy is a powerful tool to help develop learning objectives because it explains the process of learning. For example, before you can understand a concept, you must first remember it. Before you can apply a concept, you must first understand it. How do we provide meaningful learning experience for students using tools that are intrinsically motivating? I suggest a four-phase model from planning, thinking about methodologies, thinking about resources and time, and in the end, thinking about who, how, and what for we are going to assess our activities. I want to activate my students' involvement in the classroom. For example, I must ask student questions. I must be creative and betting on new technology. For example, encouraging the use of the internet and mobile devices to conduct research, clarifying doubts through chat groups or online forums. For example, it is very important to support and praise students. In the white paper, New Pedagogies for Deep Learning, Education Plus, Michael Fullan and Geoff Scott take a look at how our approaches to pedagogy must evolve to keep up with the rapid changes in the 21st century society. More important, they speak about the 6 C's, goes behind the classroom. Digital technology can foster the 6 C's. The 6 C's are essential, interrelated. For example, character and citizenship can be developed through the use of collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking. Concerning strategies, I must say that here are some good examples. I must say that no strategy will work if there is also no commitment to close relationships and teacher-student empathy. I'm here to speak about the class of 2030 that show us that social and emotional skills such as creative thinking, problem solving, and collaboration are very, very important in the 21st century class. In addition, it's urgent to determine the best tools, the best approaches to foster students' achievements. For example, flipped classroom. This hybrid model must embrace digital to amplify, isolate, and connect learners and learning, while intentionally focusing on global competencies as well as academic standards. Think about how we typically teach in a gradual release of responsibility model. These are also the stage within Bloom's taxonomy that we want our students to spend most of their time. In a flipped classroom, teachers can spend more time working with students in small groups or one-to-one that lend to opportunities for higher order thinking activities. Face-to-face, it's very important so teachers can spend more time working with students on concepts they may be having trouble understanding. Another tool is project-based learning. This is a dynamic classroom approach in which students actively explore real-world problems and challenge and acquire deeper knowledge. Students work on a project over an extended period of time, from a week up to a semester. Another possibility is about outdoor learning. Schools all around the world are facing the ultimate test as they attempt to navigate COVID-19 social distancing. It's only natural we should look to the outdoors for learning during COVID-19. Outdoor space allows for social distancing to happen more naturally. It also provides much needed fresh air and ventilation. And studies suggest outdoor activities pose a lower risk than those done indoors. Some benefits, for example, at the global level, this fostering a connection that leads to respect and care for the natural world. Research shows also that regular time in nature facilitates better social and physical development. If we want our children to have opportunities where you don't even feel like you are actually learning, you just feel like you are on an adventure, and teachers to be those people we are, not robots, that it felt like we should be. We need to change the way we think about school lessons, okay? Let's go outside. This method offers a practical experience in the outside. For example, I can put my students after that able to build their digital lab book using Microsoft OneNote with real-time reporting and uploading images of the practical execution. Feedback is also very important, presented to my students using specific, objective, and detailed information about the status of a given product. The exit tickets, one of the biggest challenges for teachers using technology in a hybrid classroom, for example, using Kahoot, quizzes, and Quizlet. These are platforms that allow us teachers to create multiple choice questions. I have prepared a list of the main benefits of gamification. Okay? For those who can't, how will I change my lesson plans that meet my students' needs? Gamification is the use of game-based elements applied to the classroom. For example, using avatars, using predefined tasks that may be used in contests other than gaming to provide fun and stimulation for the learner. Kahoot is a free online tool. My students love it. The way Kahoot is designed ensures full engagement from my students. My students see these tools as important help. They are excellent tools for preparation. They are relevant and productive. Finally, I must talk about Skype Talk Science, talking with real science of the real world. The spread of coronavirus has led to many schools closures, Portugal and elsewhere. At the same time, worries continue about an economic downturn in the wake of the pandemic. We match scientists with my classroom, and we are focused on direct real-time science communication. Here are some video calls made with my 7th grade students. They are chatting here with Dr. Renato Silva about COVID-19 at Natural Science. And I must say that technology will be prominent in the service of the twin humanity pillars of well-being and learning. This pandemic along with severe challenges that require immediate attention. Each of you who are here in this session, right from the start, accepted consciously and unconsciously that the challenge of adapting and innovating is required. So let's go on. I want to thank everyone for your attendance. Thank you, Mark. Thank you all. It was a pleasure.